Hello, hello. How we doing tonight, guys? This evening, I should say, actually. Sorry for the variable change. As I said in this week's Outlook, we are going to be moving around quite a bit, actually. So we're going to be doing a lot of variable change, a lot of last minute, hey, tonight the peer reviews at that time. I am currently helping serving catering. So helping my friend with his catering business. So, and we're doing a movie set currently. So it's a little bit weird with the timing and all of that. So hopefully you guys don't mind too much. Thank you, SJ. Glad. Um, glad to hear it is what I was gonna say. Catering in French, yeah. Traiteur. That's what it is, Justin. Yep. All right, so we'll get right into it. Let's start actually on our daily chart, and we'll see that today we actually had quite a big retracement after Monday. We almost fully reversed. So, when we were discussing potential high of week scenario on Tuesday, well, depending on the confirmation tomorrow, of course, we're looking at starting a retracement, right? Once again, we were looking at this range. And in this case, actually, our first discount would be our order block. So that would change a little bit. Just wanted to get back on track with that. But we had a pretty bearish day. Now, was this something I could predict? No, I was bullish until proven otherwise. So what can I do? I can refer to intraday frameworks. This is what we discussed yesterday for our weekly outlook. What are my intraday frameworks? Well, of course, I'll use sessions. Asia, both sides taken pre-market. London, now this is where my framework was built. Because as we can see on both assets, London was taken on NASDAQ. Let's actually remove previous day high and low here, just keep it a little cleaner. London was taken on ES, and not on NASDAQ directly at 9:30, right? If we look at ES here, and let me just move this at 9:30 right here, this is where we took out London. So this formed SMT, and now all of a sudden, what do I have? Well, I have accumulation, and as we see on ES, we have our manipulation higher, right? There was no SMT at the lows, in case you're wondering. Maybe with these lows, actually, but I don't think there was. No. See, all lows were taken right here pre-market. So no SMT at the lows, SMT at the highs. So it would have been even better if ES managed to actually reach this, but we're leaving these equal highs, which are a great target for the upcoming days. Overall, why was I bearish this morning as soon as we opened? Well, SMT at the highs, daily structure. Now, this gave me an idea to go lower. Now, of course, if I just look at this, what is my most recent range I'm looking to reverse? Well, the previous day, right? As we saw, previous day low was right here. So I'm going to use that range, and I'm going to look for a retracement within that range. Now, in the 15-minute is what I like. This is a pretty wide range, so this is where I'd go to the hourly, and now notice on the hourly, it's much less information, so that's why I actually have the 30 minutes as well in my favorites. And see, it's the same level for 30 minutes or the hourly. I have my first discount in efficiency. This is my target. As I said in the outlook yesterday, I am looking at every move lower as a retracement. So I'm going to expect it to end there. Now, in that case, if I go down, let's go back in replay mode here, just so our indicators show up correctly. If we go to the 1 minute chart and we look to target this first discount, we'll actually notice that the first breaker block was formed right after 9:30 here at 9:35. Now, if we look at a little bit before, this is what I like to do usually so that I can still see a possible entry at 9:30, even though it was formed earlier. We'll notice actually that 9:31 formed your first entry. So you had this bearish breaker. I personally missed this because I had the wrong settings on my chart. That's the truth. But the actual first available entry and first valid entry is right here. Now, as you may see, this leads to a stop because that's your final stop loss here. So your first trade of the day, let's say targeting current day's low, that's a little less of an RR, but looking at a few handles more for 1.7, which is our minimum. First trade of the day would have actually been a loss. As I said, I personally missed this one today, but this would have been your first opportunity. Also important to point out, this is also where we have some lower time frame SMT here. Just going to mark it out like this. As you can see, these highs are definitely mitigated on ES. Did a little bit of consolidation at the open for ES, but if you traded NASDAQ, you had a beautiful re-entry opportunity right here. Of course, I include volume imbalances. If you did not, you would have had a better trade. But for me, this was plenty. I was looking to target this swing low. I was looking at nearby targets. This swing low is clearly an important swing low in the range. Of course, it's still in the premium, so that's not going to be my final objective, but this is a clear objective, right? We reverse this range. This is what we call a protected low. But at this time, there is no SMT now. There is SMT right at 930. Important to point out, it is right at 934, actually, that we took out London's high, but there was the earlier SMT that formed a little bit earlier, actually, because ES mitigated those at 932. So starting at 932, technically, there's SMT. But even without SMTs, could still be a decent trade. Overall, this is not a trade I'd look to take, but I did want to mention it for the sake of realism, pessimism, just looking at all possible movements and such. Now, if we bring in our standard deviations here, you can also notice that to get our 2R right here, we could look to target between 2 and 2.5. And you'll also notice how this 2R hit perfectly on the tick right at 10 a.m. So for me, going through this consolidation, you might have seen my Twitter post. I mismanaged this trade horribly and ended up actually losing money on the day. So definitely wasn't a good day for me. I'm not going to lie to you all, but I was on the move. I left my setup. I basically took this beautiful entry at my setup and then, I was up money. And instead of just going break even and letting run to my partial objective, which for me with 4 standard deviations aligning here, I can easily hold for 3.2R. Would have taken some time, of course, all the way up to 1 p.m., but it would have been the best trade. Well, I got fucked in here, right? And after I got taken out, I had some FOMO, phone trading. Definitely no more phone trading for me and no more phone management for me too. I'm going to have my rules for my position preset. See, my rules for my position would have been break even and hold till here, and I did not do that. So definitely a learning experience for me in this sense, but beautiful trade, should have been held the whole way, right? If you are to look to take profit, as I said, that 2R range between 2 and 2.5, definitely not before 1.7, which did come a lot earlier than the 2R. Actually, no, just 2 minutes before the 2R. But anywhere between that range, right? If you want to use a specific fair value gap, you can. This is just too old for me. This swing point is of clear importance, right? If I go in the 15-minute, that's going to be a nice, clean 15-minute low. There we go. So this is a clear objective for me. But anything else is just bullshit. So when it's bullshit, what do? I use standard deviations. Overall, this should have been your trade. Then you take profit, you go break even, and you hold all the way to that 15-minute low, all the way to first discount. Can even hold a runner past that and see closing at 4, which is this candle right here, would have led to just a tiny bit better than that first discount. So if you left a runner, it would have made some money, but nothing that's really worth holding, in my opinion. So definitely a great trade all the way up to almost 5R at this point, right? We're looking at like 4.75, a little bit more, not being too precise here, but definitely a very good move. But if you were not in this move, then that's where it gets a little hard, because as you can see, if we move this aside, there was a lot of consolidation, right? The whole rest of the AM session after 10 a.m. was pretty much consolidation. Even going into lunch, had some more consolidation. And then the PM, not even waiting for 1:30, which is right here, you'll see the opening price, just decided to run, right? Definitely. So we continued our move from the morning. So we had expansion, consolidation to prepare, and then a continuation of expansion. And also, if you were looking at SMT during these times, it was pretty rough. There was a lot of SMT. Truth is, there's no point in looking at all potential setups. In my book, there was no good long until this level. At least a 15-minute swing was taken, even though that would still be in the premium of the previous day's range, right? Where I would still look to be short for a potential retracement. We're bullish on the higher time frame. We don't need to retrace all the way down here. We do need to retrace all the way down here for me to consider any high probability shorts. So any of these longs just are not valid trades for me, really. There is a potential long that was interesting. I'm forgetting at what time, but we talked about it in the futures chat this morning. There was a potential long that was interesting. I believe it was right here, because we were looking at the potential of a 10 a.m. reversal, 2 to 2.5, and we did have SMT on those lows. So that is the only one that I would consider not necessarily valid, right? We did have SMT right here. I was looking for it. It is valid. I mean, I can't say anything. As I said, you should have been looking for at least a lower movement before that long in my book, because this is a very big draw for price. But this is the only long I guess I could say I would forgive, right? Looking at this trade specifically, targeting the equal highs that were formed with the SMT, and of course, London plus current day's high. But there is SMT at this level. So even if I'm in this long, I'm trying to go break even as soon as I can. If you guys remember, what are my rules for break even? If it consolidates on my entry, I'm looking for break even. And what is my rule for break even? Well, as soon as it expands back up there, I'm break evening my trade. So I either got, if I was in this long, I would have gotten stopped out either at this level, right, break even, or after this point, which I would have gotten stopped out at the same level, just at a different point, right? If this was not a heavy enough expansion, mainly because we didn't take out this high, so we're just still consolidating, and then we had our raid at this level right here, well, that would have been a good reason to wait for going break even on that trade, definitely. But overall, and even looking at short continuations, I mean, I'm not shorting here. We already ran, right? You're already 50 points lower. I mean, it's not about the point movement. It's really about proportionally speaking, right? You had this manipulation, and now you had this whole move during the New York session, and you're looking to take a short here. I mean, for me to take a short, I need to retrace to a premium, at least of the range of the New York range, right? So since 930. And this is where I like to use OTE whenever I'm using lower time frame. I mean, no opportunities really. The only time we were tracing a premium right here, this would have been a potential opportunity. And I mean, you would have shorted this. That is a profitable setup. So say just waiting for price to do what it is supposed to do is definitely a good one. But even though that is technically a profitable setup, and what do I mean by technically here? I have the wrong level. Well, it does make money, right? It's a winning trade. It would have been a very hard one to hold through, right? You're up almost 1 hour, probably 1 hour by then, and then it goes back into drawdown, a lot of consolidation. But I mean, it's during lunch, so it's to be expected. This trade is definitely a nice continuation after returning to a premium. Just ran quite a bit far away, and I don't like waiting, what is that, 7 minutes between when my breaker is formed and when my entry is. I like when it is fast, instant, right? I'm looking at 2 or 3 candles. This is a little sketchy, but it would be a valid continuation. So the actual valid trades I'm seeing today, of course, I'm not going to consider anything in the PM. Nowhere I'm looking for a long at this point, and right after 130, first discount is met. That's my final objective. No possible trade here would offer me enough risk to reward to this target. But in the morning, the first short was definitely the trade to take in this case. There was also this continuation opportunity, which is valid enough, but you are trading within consolidation, which for me is always something I try and stay away from. And as I said, also this long would be valid enough to consider, but it would definitely be better if it would have taken this 15-minute swing. Then I could have definitely said, hey, this is a good setup, even though it did not work out. Any questions about that? Sorry if I'm going a little bit quick tonight, guys, but definitely trying to go through it a little quicker. Got a busy night. I'm going to be back out. Won't be back home probably until 11 tonight. Happy to answer any questions, though. Always got time for questions, right? This is the point of these calls. All good? All right. How'd you guys do today? Right? Did we have some good performance? I didn't have too much of a chance after 10 a.m. to look at chat. -1 hour. You know, if you can stick to just having one loss, I'm not going to lie, Justin, you did better than me. I was supposed to make a lot of money today, and I ended up losing a decent chunk of money. I don't want to say a lot because it's hurting my soul, but I lost way too much. Way more than I should have. And I'm going to 65R? Did you mean 6.5 or you made 65? That is awesome. Are you saying 65 combined, like through multiple accounts? I'm curious about that number. And 931, would you wait for a retracement or just enter? 931 is okay. The main thing is, as Justin said, this setup is a little bit worse because it doesn't have SMT. And at that point, you don't have a clear manipulation because ES only took out that level at 934. So the truth is there's no real good trade until 934. And at that point, you could have entered right at the open because the IFVG is still valid. And I'm gonna was with 2 trades, yeah, but mainly 1. Awesome, dude. Awesome. But yeah, SJ, just to go back over it. I mean, it's not really a valid trade, but the ones that are on the fence like this, that are just hard to define, I prefer telling you guys, you know what? Take the loss. It is what it is. Because once we start getting into too many specifics, the truth is sometimes I take those because I don't notice that it's bad, like slightly too bad to not take. And sometimes I don't because I notice that they are slightly too bad. In general, yeah. And I'm gonna, but yeah, no, just overall in general, I never like to enter at 9:30. But once we're here at 9:31, you could have entered directly. It is definitely like that. And I enter at the open. I don't wait for it. I saw someone ask that question. I don't wait for it to retrace back into my entry. The valid entry is 9:30. The only reason why I would not enter at 9:30 is because I'm scared of volatility and slippage. So because of that, I give it a minute to settle down. Sometimes it's even 45 seconds. Whenever I see an entry right on 9:30, I open my seconds chart and I wait for it visually, instinctively to settle down. If you're looking for something, just look at the seconds chart when it's 3:50 p.m., right? Closing range, right? You're going to see a spike of volatility that just breaks the ATR, and then you're going to see it die down in like 5 to 10 seconds. So sometimes it's quick like that, but sometimes the 9:30 can last a while and actually last 1 minute. That makes it so sometimes I also miss out on some trades. I don't miss out on some trades, sorry. I don't take a potential trade because it wasn't good enough. And all right, guys, on that note, we're going to call it a night. You all have a great time. We're going to see each other back tomorrow for another price action review. Bye, guys. Have a great one. And I'm going to